I thought I'd share a real quick tip, something that I think everybody can use. And with the winter season coming up, I got out all my electrical stuff. I have the gloves, the jacket, the vest. I have the whole 9 yards on this because I like to stay warm when it gets really down cold. But here's the tip I wanted to show, is an awful lot of these, and these are the feet pads, and I have several sets of these. These are wonderful in cold weather. The only problem is that, and it's a design thing, is right where they go together, and it's typical of all the electrical stuff, where they go together, it tends to short out. Now, I've had gloves do this, I've had one of the vests do this, and I've got now a set of these feet pads that did the same thing. And let me just show. What you really have to do, this of course is another pad, and I have another set here. I just line them up here, because I'm going to do a continuity check on all of them before the real cold weather gets here, is you've got to cut away a little piece of the rubber, fold it back to get to where the wire actually enters. They mold the wire in. I guess they don't want you to repair this, but it's an easy repair, because once you get this put away, you can take a hot glue gun and just isolate the wires. You really can't get them any other way that I know of that would be convenient anyway, and all without making it uncomfortable that you're sitting on something crooked. So what I'm doing, I'm letting a soldering iron warm up. I'll solder these wires, fill this little area with hot glue so that the wires are insulated, and then I'm going to show the other thing I'm going to try. I'm hoping this is going to work. I'm going to put a piece of Gorilla Tape where the wire enters this to reinforce it. Now, I did that on the gloves years ago, and Tim, one of my friends, that told me he had a jacket that had a similar thing. So this is a common thing, and what happens is you don't want to throw the part away. These things are, you know, whatever amount of money they are, the gloves, the feet, the vest, the jacket, but to be able to isolate that, almost every time I've seen one fail, it's failed right where the wire enters. And if you cut that little bit of rubber away very carefully using a brand new razor blade, you can get in there, solder the wires, and pretty much you've salvaged, how long, who knows how long they're going to last. These are about 5 years old, and the other pair is way older than that. So I even marked which is the old pair. But they still work, but once they fray a wire, relatively simple job to just solder the two wires. But then the trick is, and the part of this tip that I think is worthwhile, is just fill in that area with a hot glue gun, because there's no realistic way. This is just as vulnerable. Right now, this wire is going to want to flex and bend right at the end of that soldering joint. So you want to encase that in some material. Okay, so you can see now, the issue is now, if I were to just put this back in a boot and keep pulling on it, this wire is going to be very vulnerable. But by encasing it in hot glue, and I've got one soldered wire on each side, this is kind of the middle piece, but I think that Gorilla Tape will be a big step in keeping this from happening again. Now, a piece of Gorilla Tape on this side will keep us from building a big lump of glue on this side. That might be uncomfortable. Although if your feet are really cold on a 200-mile ride, that lump won't bother you as much as having a cold feet. So now, once the hot glue gun warms up, I'm going to lay this way, and using this as my back, I'm going to try to encase this all in hot glue, let it dry, and then trim it back nice and smooth, and even put a piece of Gorilla Tape on this side. The whole idea is to reinforce that wire. That wire is the vulnerable part of this whole operation. Now, there's really two types of craft glue guns, and these are about $10 in a craft store. It's always good when you're using hot glue. When you think it's melting the glue, and let me just demonstrate this. It's coming out nice and gooey like that. From that point on, let it sit another 2 minutes, because this temperature, the glue and the glue sticks, at the temperature it melts and the temperature it penetrates material the best, it penetrates when it gets hotter. So the best of all worlds is to let it get as warm as possible. That's always in your favor. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is I want to get in there And needless to say, don't touch this with your bare hands. It's actually a good idea even to wear rubber gloves when you're doing this, but I'm thinking this is kind of a delicate thing. Here, let me just move it there. I don't want to get... Now, what I'm hoping that's going to do, and see what I'm going to do is take the Gorilla Glue and leave this attached to the wire and just trim it back. Ooh, that's hot. Whoa! It's hotter than you think it is until you burn yourself. If you trim this back and leave this piece of the Gorilla Tape attached to the wire, it should give us a lot of reinforcement that this doesn't happen again. And then what I'm going to do is the other, well, I've got 4 that are in service now. I'm going to do them all, trying to protect that wire before it breaks. It's a nice little upgrade. It takes you 10-15 minutes to do it. And even on the gloves, it works just as well on gloves or on the vest. It's where that, always remember, where that wire ends and the jacket begins, there's always a point of flexure. And even on these ends here, now see what I do with the ends that plug in, since you don't see them and I don't care what they look like, I just wrap them with electrical tape to reinforce them so that they're not doing this all day long. They're not bending. Because these, in particular, or the ones on the gloves, they're always doing this. But this is a good repair, and this has worked in the past, and I just thought this would be a good tip to share. And that wire, once that glue dries in 5 minutes, that'll be every bit as strong as the rubber around it. So with the second piece on, you can see how that repair has worked out. And it's the Gorilla Tape, really nice and strong. And this really keeps this wire. You don't feel this. This goes up the side of your foot. You don't feel this at all. Now, I just want to say one thing about all the electrical things that I have, because I like to ride right through the winter until the roads become unrideable with salt and ice and stuff. It pretty much adds a nice little addition to my ability to ride, and I use my riding as exercise to stay in shape. I like to ride 100 and 150 miles a day if I can. And in the winter, this makes the ride so much more fun. So this is what the final repair looks like. We've got plenty of tension protecting it. It's still flexible. I don't think, at least I wouldn't bother even trying to make that any better than it is. That's fine. And I think we've gone a long way to reinforcing this. Something you wish the factory would have done, some kind of reinforcement like this, but hey, you can do it yourself. It costs pretty much no money. Now, here's even a better idea, and I'm going to do it right now because rather than pretend this is never going to happen again, I know, now here's the newer of the 2 sets. Let me just straighten this out. Well, this one's vulnerable too. So here's a great idea, and this is something I always am a big believer in. If one breaks, it's like windshield wipers on a car. The other one's going to wear out soon. Replace both of them. Well, I'm going to do the reinforcement thing on this one and on the old set that I keep for a set of spares. And then I have a way of testing these, and I have made a little test. Well, I'll show it. But anyway, I'll do the other 3 off camera, and I'll have, hopefully, many, many more years of good, nice, warm feet while everybody else is freezing. So here's what I want to show, my little test. You can buy the extra set of wires, or you can just take the one off the bike to do a test like this. Once is my spare R1 battery, and I replaced it with a lithium ion, but it's an old battery, and it's good for doing testing like this. I always have a piece of tape on, showing I charge it once a month. Not really necessary, I guess, but I just keep it for doing this kind of testing. But now what this is going to allow me to do is to test the jacket. I'm going to plug the jacket into here, and then plug individually plug them in, and make sure everything works, and then just charge the battery over. It's pretty simple, and I never even have to go out to the garage. I never have to discharge any of the bikes in the garage. The reason I like this, as opposed to doing it out in the garage, what I would have to do is put the jacket over the bike to connect the wire, and then you take a chance of scratching the tank with the zipper on the jacket or something. This, you don't take any chances. So this is a neat little thing about you. You can buy these for, I don't know, $6 or something. And now you can charge the battery through here, the normal way we keep the motorcycles charged. Or even more important, you can test all your electrical gear. But it's always good to test them through the controller and through the jacket. Don't try to plug it right into the battery. Just do it through the controller. So the beauty of having this, I can test through here. If I blow a fuse, it's not a big deal. I don't take the seat off the bike or anything. I can test all my controls. I let this sit about 3 minutes and then test if, number one, this is just, and by the way, this is a good tip. I've mounted the controller with a piece of Velcro on the back, piece of Velcro on a jacket. The way they tell you to mount it, it flip-flops around. And I like to always have things. This is a critical thing. I always like to have things that are better than the factory does them. See, this is a factory thing, and this bends and everything. Yeah, that's nice. But this one doesn't bend and break. And there's just the same thing up here. There's certain things that they just, if they would make it a little bit better, they give you a Velcro strap to put on your leg. This is much more convenient. Another nice thing here, and as I go, it warms up the jacket, which then the wire goes through the pants, comes out here, and I can feel, ooh, they get nice and warm already. So, there's the setup. And again, how to test it, how to repair it. And as I always say, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got something out of it, and I hope you'll share your ideas on video too. Thank you to everybody that shares on YouTube. Now, a lot of times I find, especially in the world of motorcycling, there's things you can do that cost a lot of money and don't make much difference or none at all. And then there's things that cost almost no money or no money and make a giant difference in your life. And having warm feet all winter, well, warm hands or a warm vest. And boy, I want to encourage anybody, because among my friends, and I want to thank Andy Lee. Andy Lee is the one, years and years and years ago, and I bet he doesn't even remember. He told me, you know, why would you suffer all winter if you're going to ride in cold weather? And I took it to heart. I said, hey, Andy's a smart guy. I'm going to go buy one of the vests. Well, what I did is I bought the vest. I liked it so much, I bought the jacket. Then I bought the gloves. Then I bought these guys. The only thing I don't have is the pants. But I do like to ride in cold weather. And actually, you get used. It actually feels nice and warm and toasty when you're riding. But this is a modification. I've made it to all of them, the old set, the new set. And that is the one vulnerable part of all these electrical things that have a connection. It's always that, or it's in here. The two places that these are really vulnerable. And it's always where the wire ends. And Luciano said one time, made a very good point. A wire very seldom fails. It's always the end of the wire. And I try to learn from a lot of smart people. That's turned out to be true. So anyway, I hope you've picked up some good information from this. Something you can use, something you can put in something you can have warm feet with anyway. Or warm hands or warm whatever. And I hope you enjoy riding all winter with us. We are going to ride through the winter until they build snowmen in the middle of the road. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It is a good tip. This really works, and it costs no money. That's a good combination. So thanks for watching.